Welcome to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Indiana Basketball Weekly Show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. If you want to bet on the NCAA tournament, just click on the MyBookie.ag banner at the top of the page. It'll take you there for a cash bonus up to $1,000. I think it's 50%. So if you put $200 in, they give you a free $100 to bet also. I am your co-host for Indiana, or whatever you call this show, Indiana Basketball Weekly. Not on top of my game tonight. I've never talked about the NIT before, and I don't ever want to do it again. But I'm Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in 1979 NIT champion Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you guys tonight. It's a great opportunity for this team to play and continue to grow and build on. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that in the course of the show. But, yeah, glad to be here. All right.
And next up, a man who I don't think ever played the NIT, but he did miss the tournament completely last year, which I didn't have to do a show about. Collin Hartman. How you doing, Collin?
Wow.
That was a compliment.
That's messed up.
That's really messed up.
Big Ten champion. Regional semifinalist, Collin Hartman. How about that?
Yeah, that works.
All right. And then we've got a man who may start for St. Francis in the first round game, Cole Hanna. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing pretty good. May try to get a tryout with them, see what happens. But
I think they'll just take you if you're above 5 feet tall. All right. So let's start off.
Mike, two things.
Yeah.
One, I've seen Cole play. He's not above 5 foot, and
hey, 5'10".
Are you 5'8"? Oh, you're taller than your brother then. Oh, you're taller than Grant.
I'm taller than Grant. Yeah, Grant's the short one.
You realize Tiny Archibald was only 5'8". Calvin Murphy was only 5'9".
There you go.
Okay, so you're saying Cole's not Calvin Murphy or Tiny Archibald. All right. Let's start off. We'll start with the NCAA tournament. We're just going to do a brief overview. Should Indiana have any case to be in this tournament, Collin?
I mean, if you look at just the sheer record, it's hard to take a team that lost 12 out of 13 or whatever it got to. After loss to Ohio State, no. I think that we needed that win. And it's just we fight an uphill battle, and you dig yourself a hole like we did throughout the season. And it's just tough. I don't think you can put in a team that lost first round of the Big Ten. I don't think so. No, it's what. When we tried, we played hard, played well at the end, but overall, no.
All right, Cole, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make an argument for them. I don't think it's a particularly strong argument. I think first 4 out's probably fair. They did have a lot of quad one wins, but like Collin said, dropping 12 of 13, 15 losses on the season. That's tough to overcome there. So I think where they're put is probably a fair ranking.
Yeah, and Steve, I think they pretty much did themselves in against Ohio State. If they win the Ohio State game, they're an 11 seed. They're in this thing, and we're not doing a freaking show about the NIT.
I agree. Yeah, I think that they're losing 12 or 13. The thing that just disturbs me about the whole process a little bit is they kept talking about these net rankings, and the last 4 in all had lower net rankings than the first 4 out.
Yeah, but I think that's
talking about how important that was.
I think that's just a piece of the puzzle. I don't think that's the whole puzzle.
Yeah, and the guy that was the head of the selection committee came on. I was watching the NCAA selection. He said, losses in the middle of the season counted. And I thought, well, you kept talking about these net rankings and figured out this formula. And this net ranking thing was supposed to be the number you were going to measure everybody by and rank by that. I think the other thing that did Indiana in too is there was a fair amount of upsets in mid-major conference play that all of a sudden you now had teams like Nevada that lost, and you had to find a hole for them. And every time that happened, like with Oregon beating Washington, now you had to find another hole out of the Pac-12. I think they did. But no, I agree with Colin and Cole entirely. That I don't think they were worthy of playing the tournament this year. They didn't earn the right.
All right. When we look at the NIT draw, they will play St. Francis in the first round. So I figured I'll Google them. And St. Francis was 18-14. They lost by 15 at Buffalo, first game of the season. They lost to the Steve Alford-led UCLA Bruins, 95-58. They got beat 101-76 by North Carolina. They held Virginia to 75 points, so they played much better defensively, but only scored 37. When you look at this, Cole, they could be a hard team to get up for. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they did win their conference, or at least they were co-champions in the Northeastern Conference. That's probably the biggest positive you can say for them. You know, they're obviously not a great team, but, you know, they're in the NIT. They went 12-6 in their conference, just 18-14 overall. You know, it's not a team Indiana should particularly struggle with if they're playing well. But like you said, you know, they're going to have to get up for them because, you know, I think San Francisco is going to get up for IU. So yeah, I don't think IU can underestimate them. Really.
Hold on. You got to hear this. They have, and I'm not making fun of people's names. I just want to get that out of the way. I just have to bring this up. They've got a freshman named Precious. He's 6'8", weighs 215 pounds. Collin, would you like to address that?
I have nothing to say about
that. So, if you're watching the game and you hear somebody say, "There's Precious," I mean, that's, I don't know. Steve, in the Big Ten in 1981, was there anybody named Precious?
Not that I can recall, but that's a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I like that galaxy better, by the way. Yeah, so assuming Indiana beats St. Francis, which you would assume, but we've seen stranger things happen over the last 2 years. The other side of the draw, their second round game is more interesting, Cole. You've got Providence or Arkansas. Yeah. Arkansas beats Indiana earlier in the year. Providence is a team that played, I mean, they play everybody tough. They've got some nice wins. That second round matchup to me, I mean, could be tougher than an Elite Eight matchup that they play in this also.
Yeah, there's some intrigue there. Providence, you know, that's a pretty good team. Big East is a good conference. You know, they gave Villanova a good game in the tournament. They blew Butler out in the first round. I believe they won by 20, 25 points in that game. So that's far from a gimme. And obviously Arkansas beat them earlier this year. They have one of the best big men in the country probably in that Daniel Gafford for him, who's you know, IU really, really struggled to contain him in their first matchup. So, yeah, I mean, that's not a gimme game at all for Indiana. That actually is a game that's going to be probably pretty tough for them. I could see that game going either way, really. Providence and Arkansas, you know, I think two relatively even matched teams, obviously power conference teams. So, yeah, that's going to be a game that could have a lot of intrigue there.
All right, so Steve,
Mike,
go ahead.
I had a question for you. Does Indiana play at home?
Yeah, the higher seed plays at home until you get to the Final Four.
Until the Final Four, then they all go to Madison Square Garden, correct?
Yeah.
So they'll play all these games at Assembly Hall with probably about 2,000 people there.
And unless we decline the home game again, like what year was it we declined the home game?
Kentucky did that too.
We declined the home game. Yeah,
you remember Kentucky did that?
We declined
the year they played Robert Morris, and then they went to Robert Morris, and Robert Morris beat the hell out of them. I don't know. I giggle because anytime I can talk about Kentucky losing, I find it funny.
It's a good day.
Yeah, especially when they lose with Robert Morris. So my question to you, Steve, and I'm going to ask Collin the same question. You played the NIT. Was it hard to get up for the NIT?
Well, we didn't play the NIT. We won the NIT.
Yeah, you played in the NIT. So when you played in the NIT, was it hard to get up for it?
No, it was just another opportunity to play games, win basketball games. No, not at all.
Now, Collin, hold on a second, because this is the thing. You played there when only two Big Ten teams were able to really get in a tournament, which that year was Michigan State and Iowa. When you look at it now, Collin, do you think times have changed since we've got another 28 teams in the tournament now? Do you think that guys look at this differently? If Indiana beats Rutgers last year, has a winning record, and plays in the NIT, what would that have meant to you?
At that point in my career, I don't know. I mean, you get another opportunity to play the game. And I think that, yes, while it sucks that you're not in an NCAA tournament, you still get to play more. Just because I never get that back. I never get to go back and play another game. And at the time, you're kind of like, I'm just ready to be done. This didn't go the way I wanted it to. Blah. It's just like, it's going to be hard for it'll be harder for the older guys unless they're trying to play to get an NBA. But for guys that aren't trying to get an NBA or, anything like that or keep building their resume, it's difficult. But at the same time, there's a pride issue that comes in. Are you going to go out there and put out a bad product and play like crap and represent the university terribly? Or are you going to have some pride and just, be a competitor naturally and try to win the game?
All right, Steve.
Yeah, let me ask you, Mike, a question, and Collin, address this. If Indiana wins the NIT, and if you played in the NIT, you're hanging a banner. And I mean, I've got an NIT banner there. I've got an NCAA banner hanging up there, and I was just part of teams that did that. But if you win the NIT, so isn't that kind of enough pride to go play for? That if you win the damn thing, go win it and go hang a banner, because they're going to put a banner up if they win the NIT this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one of those big red flags flying over the Assembly Hall.
Yeah, but
it's your team.
I think the problem is now, though, you're looking at it. St. Francis is the 8th seed in here. I just don't see. I don't think it means what it used to mean. And, I mean, still, if you're in a tournament, you want to play to win the damn thing. The thing that concerns me here with this team, Cole, is we talked about you want to play with pride, and we questioned how badly they wanted to win or how much they hated to lose just a few weeks ago. Is that a concern going into this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always going to be a concern with this team. I think they've been better in that department as the season went on, especially there at the end. I don't really question their heart or the effort. I think it was there. That doesn't always mean they're playing well or executing well, but I think the heart and the will to win was there down the stretch of the season, which is, I think, why they won, their final 4 games of the regular season. Obviously, with the NIT, though, is there going to be that disappointment factor that they didn't get in the tournament? Is that going to, hang over them to the NIT and they're going to drop a game, that they otherwise shouldn't have dropped? Yeah, I think that's a legitimate fear to have.
Yeah, and, I mean, when I look at the NIT, you see teams like, I'll use this as an example, Xavier, before their program was big time, in 1984, I think it was, or 1985, 84 or 85. I think it was 84. It was the year IU beat North Carolina, but they got in the final, or they got in the NIT, and I remember going to those games, and they played Ohio State, Nebraska the first 2 rounds. Cincinnati Gardens was packed, 10,000 people. It meant more to them, and they ran Nebraska and Oklahoma out of the building. They ended up losing by a point against Michigan with Antoine Jobert in the quarterfinal game. When I look at it, that would be my biggest concern here, Collin, is running into a team. We sit here, we made fun of St. Francis, but St. Francis being in the NIT is a huge deal to St. Francis.
Oh yeah, and that's part of the problem, especially when you have Indiana across your chest. You're going to get everybody's best game regardless, just because everybody wants to, beat Indiana. They don't get to play teams like us all the time, and so that's an added factor. And then, like you said, these guys. I mean, this is a big stage for a lot of these dudes, and that would be the one thing is if we don't come in with our mindsets right, and play hard and play the right way, then it could be a game, and we could lose. But I mean, we should blow this team out, in my opinion, especially the way that we've been playing. But it's just, you never know with these games. You never know with guys now, and it's just sometimes you don't take it serious and you just fall behind and you dig yourself a hole and you try to come back late in the game and it's too little too late, kind of like our season. But I'm kind of worried about it just because the way that we've played against Ohio State just wasn't good.
Yeah, because that was a one-and-done circumstance. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, a question for you is, because of the upsets that occurred in a lot of the mid-major conference championships, you've got a fairly strong field here. UNC Greensboro is a team that probably should be playing NC State, Georgetown, all. Lipscomb had a great season.
UNC Greensboro, I think, should be in the tournament. They were a 28-5 team that played in what conference was that? The SoCon that they were in, Cole?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that conference. That's the same conference with what? Liberty, Belmont,
you got TCU.
Lipscomb.
Yeah, you got TCU, Nebraska, and Butler in here. This is not necessarily a weak field.
No,
this
it's like the weak field.
Yeah.
The weak field is when you look at like the 8 seeds.
Yeah,
the 8 seeds are a weak field.
But they're trying to fill a 32-team tournament, and they go somewhere. But Wichita State is a team that's historically done fairly well. I don't know how good they were this year. I didn't follow Wichita State.
They were
a
team that was a couple games over 500, and they lost They only lost by 3 to Cincinnati the other day. And the thing about Wichita State is that's a program that's been really successful over the last decade, even reaching a Final Four.
Mm-hmm. Right, and Mike, you and I were tweeting back and forth on the Xavier game, and Xavier is we talked about this is the number 3 kid for Xavier. We talked about the dunk he made.
You're talking about Najee Marshall?
Yeah, and I've never seen Romeo Langford make a move like that. And here's a kid that I didn't even know existed, and I'm thinking, wow, I've never seen Langford do that. And he and the number 35 kid for Xavier, the
big
strong white kid.
Yeah, and see,
he's a player.
The thing about that Xavier team is they're pretty much all back intact. Butler, I think they've got a big time recruit coming in. Butler's going to be really good. Villanova's the Big East may only have 3 teams in it this year, but they're going to be back to their normal 5 or 6 at least next year. And my question here, we got another Indiana school in this tournament. We got Nebraska plays Butler, which I think is an interesting game, Cole.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely an interesting game. Nebraska obviously played very well down the stretch in the Big Ten tournament. They upset Maryland in that game. So that's a team that's playing well. I think Nebraska, if nothing else, I think the team likes Tim Miles. They're going to play for him, try to perform well in this tournament. Butler obviously didn't play as well down the stretch, but, to me, Butler's a team that, you can never underestimate them. I know they obviously lost to Providence pretty badly in their last outing. And obviously, Providence is a matchup IU could be looking at in the second round. But, I think Butler is a pretty good team to have in the field for the NIT. That's another game I think really Nebraska-Butler could be a top. I could see that going either way. I think those are, for the most part, 2 pretty evenly matched teams.
Mike Loyola Chicago was a Final Four team last year, weren't they?
Yeah, they're a 7 seed. They go to Creighton to play Creighton, which is a really interesting game. And that Loyola team is a team that played a lot tougher schedule this year, and they were in most of those games.
Yeah.
And just missed out. They got upset in Missouri Valley.
This is not a pushover tournament right now. Going down through looking at all the brackets and the 32 teams in. You got some 1 versus 8s, but that generally happens. But you get in the middle of these brackets here.
Yeah, you just
going to be
Steve,
good,
do this.
Tough basketball
Look at the second round games because you could have Indiana against Providence or Alabama. You probably got Furman against Clemson. Furman is a team that beat Villanova earlier in the year. You could have TCU against Butler or TCU Nebraska, Memphis Creighton or maybe Memphis Loyola. You look on the other side. You got a second round matchup. You could have Xavier in Texas. Alabama against Colorado or Dayton. There's some good teams here. This is a quality tournament to win. My only problem is I hate the NIT.
Yeah. Right, but Collin, where was I going to go with this? Yeah, never mind. Go ahead, Mike. I lost my train of thought because I was listening to what you were saying.
Well, I
Trying
lost
to
my
listen
train
more
of
and
thought
talk
because
less.
I was listening to what you were saying.
You're gonna say.
So overall here, they play. What are these games played? They play on the 19th
no. Here's my
or
question.
20th?
I remember my question. Is Indiana lucky in this tournament right now to be a number 1 seed, Collin?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think they are.
I think they are. I think they're lucky to be a number 1 seed.
When I look at this, Collin, I mean, my thing is this. I think there's 3 seeds here that deserve to be a number 1 before Indiana.
Okay.
Xavier's one of them. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, because I guarantee you Xavier would smoke IU if they play him. Xavier is a really good athletic team who at one point in this year was 3 or 4 games below 500, and I think they got beat by Butler at Butler. Over the last 10 games, they lost at Butler, and they lost in overtime to Villanova. I don't know if I used lucky to be a number 1 seed, because when I look at it, you got UNC, Greensboro, Indiana, TCU, Alabama. I think is the one that's lucky to be a number 1 seed. Actually, I would pull Alabama out there and put Xavier at 1 and drop Bama to a 3.
Xavier number 1
because I don't think that
Agreed.
they're that good. So, do you have a Final Four projection, Steve?
Mike, well, no. Here's one more question. No. This is intriguing, guys. You could end up with Indiana playing Dayton.
Was that intriguing?
In the championship, yeah.
Isn't that where Archie Miller? Yeah, it's where Archie Miller came from.
There you go. Yes, it is. Actually, the
you
more
could end up
intriguing
with
to
that
me
match.
is this. I just got a tweet from Bobby Sheridan, who, as me and Steve know, has been touting Indiana to play Georgetown in the NIT Final Four. And I would like to bring up to Bobby that Indiana can only play Georgetown in the championship game, I believe. So his dream may not come true.
His dream won't come true.
Yeah, so we heard a lot of crap.
But
about
I'm gonna tell
that.
you what, whoever Bobby picks, I'm trusting that team.
Oh yeah,
I put that way. Yeah.
I put some money
I'm not
into
betting against Bobby ever again in my life.
I put some money in a mybookie.ag account, and it was kind of rough the first day, but ever since, my money keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Wait, Mike, he had
There you
Georgetown,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Georgetown, yeah, no, they could play in the Final Four, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
unless
it would
my
have to be the
bracket's
championship game, wouldn't it?
No, I mean, unless my bracket's wrong, they could meet in the Final Four. Indiana would have to play Providence, Arkansas, then whoever would come out the South, and Georgetown's in the bracket above
wait,
them.
it's
So
not
they would
the
have to
South. It's the lower right bracket.
Well, mine's
Yeah,
lower
no,
left.
it is. Yeah,
Unless my bracket
upper left,
is
lower
wrong
left,
here.
upper right, lower right.
I don't know.
I
Hell with
have
it.
no idea.
Well, let's just hope
Okay,
it doesn't
well,
happen
now-
because Bobby's going to never let us live that down.
No, and Bobby's going to pick the right team. So whatever
Yeah.
Bobby picks, if he picks
So let's
Georgetown
just
over
go ahead
Indiana,
and
I'm
figure
betting on
Indiana's
Georgetown.
going to play Georgetown in
Yeah.
the Final Four. We give up, Bobby.
Yeah,
Quit
but now
touching
here,
us.
now Collin, I have a question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever got to. The Final Four goes to Madison Square Garden, which is probably one of the greatest basketball venues of all time. Is that worth any? Because we won the NIT at MSG, and every time I see anything played at MSG, they call it, the greatest basketball
It's the
venue in
Mecca.
the United States.
The Mecca of basketball.
It's the Mecca,
Well,
right?
Collin played there last
Collin, did you ever
year.
get to play-
He played last year in the Big Ten tournament there, didn't you?
Yeah, and I've played in Madison Square Garden like 3 or 4 times.
Is that a great place to go play though? Down on 32nd Street and down in South Manhattan. I mean, it's right. I know exactly where it's
cool,
at. I've driven
it's a
by it a
cool
million
environment,
times.
but
Yeah.
it's a cool environment, but it's like it's not all that to me. It's just not. Just because.
See, in
we
my
were
day,
actually
when to go say we were going to play in the NIT and we were going to MSG and playing there, that's when the Knicks were good. Things were happening. That was basketball mega. So I think the reward of getting the opportunity to go play at Madison Square Garden at Mecca, I think that's worthy of making.
Yeah, but it
more
probably
valuable.
isn't anymore, Steve, because these guys didn't grow up watching Walt Clyde Frazier and all those guys, and I think a lot of that history is lost on these young kids that don't know anything.
There you go. One of the proudest things I am, besides winning championships in Indiana, like Collin did, is I won a tournament and championship at Madison Square Garden, and every time they talk about Madison Square Garden, I'm like, yeah, I won there. You know, our team won there. I didn't win there. Our team won there. But I think that's a treasure, and that's, you know,
all right.
It's like my theory is that the college football championships should always be played at the Rose Bowl. That it should be the Run for the Roses, and it should all be played at the Rose Bowl. Every year, the final championship game in college football should be played at the Rose Bowl, which is 20 minutes from my house, so I could go to the game.
I think they ought to play it in like a parking lot just to see who the toughest team really is.
There you go.
But all right,
I look at this as we talk about this. I don't think this is really disrespectful to Indiana. I think Indiana should be thrilled to death. They're a number one seed. Mike, you and I were talking, and all of us were talking before. We think they got the best draw of any of the number one seeds. Do we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
The good, easiest pathway in, Collin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I think wear the uniform, the Indiana uniform, and Collin, you spent your 5th year there and came back after play another year, and I think you did it because you wanted to wear. You don't want to give up the jersey. It would be my thought. I hated giving up. In fact, I stole my jerseys when
All right.
I took the bag and left.
I'll make sure that I don't tweet this show out to Indiana basketball because you never know. You may have a LAPD guy come down and get the jersey. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's move on. Real quick, how far does Purdue go, Cole?
That's a tough one. I think Purdue's probably pretty generous getting a 3 seed. I'll say they'll win a game before they get bounced out. I think is probably what I'm not as high in Purdue, I think, as other people. I think Carson Edwards is a great player who can, drive them to some great wins. And then the next game, he'll shoot them out of the game, I think. I think he's just a little bit too inconsistent for me.
All right, Collin?
Yeah, I agree. He's a great player. And probably a great dude, but at the end of the day, the way he played against IU and they run into a guy like Rob Finney, I think they're in trouble.
Steve?
Yeah, Matt Painter's an acquaintance. I can't even really call him a friend because we don't send Christmas cards to each other. But I don't think Matt is a good one and done coach, and I think Purdue has struggled in the tournament when they've had better talent and failed. I think in the bracketology I was watching today on CBS, one of the pickers had Purdue going to the Final Four, and I'm thinking, geez, that's not really right.
Now, because I could see that because they should beat Old Dominion. Then they play Villanova. Villanova's a team that's going to be a close game. The Jay Wright thing would worry me in the fact that Villanova's there every year. But after that, if you look at the above bracket for the Sweet 16, you've got Wisconsin, who they could definitely beat, Oregon, who's been hot, Kansas State, who's probably going to be missing Dean Wade, or he's going to play injured, and UC Irvine. So I think I think Purdue could at least make it to the Elite Eight, which is scary. But I also think since it's Purdue, they'll probably lose to Villanova in the second round by a point.
Yeah, the only thing I could add to that is the greatest predictor of the future is generally history.
You know what's a bitch, Steve? I'm sitting here making fun of Purdue because they usually lose in the second round of the tournament, and we haven't even been in it in 3 years.
Yeah, I know. How bad is that? Yeah.
Yeah. We're like them Dallas Cowboy fans that want to talk about them championships we won in the 70s and the 90s and ignore the last 25 years.
Great. Thank you, Mike. I'm sure we'll be talking to Anthony at some point this week, too, so we'll hear that again.
Probably not.
That'll come back up.
Survive in Advance for us will probably only be tomorrow with Brian Ralph, where we will talk a little NCAA tournament brackets, upsets, stuff like that. Cole, you're more than welcome to come on if you're free at noon tomorrow.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll have class then. But
right. I would ask Collin, but I know he's got a real job, so he probably can't.
Yeah.
Cole, you actually go to class?
Believe it or not, yeah. Every now and then I'm going to show up to class.
His mom listens to the show, so
my mom's in the room right now.
Oh, okay. So you might be on, is what you're telling me. All right.
Here was the thing about IU that I found. I found the perfect classroom. It was Myers 101. Myers Hall 101. It was on, I think, Jordan at 3rd Street or Jordan. It was down where the Mama Bear's Pizza was. You could sit in the 14th or 15th row and cheat off the person in the first row because the classroom was such an amphitheater. It was all dot matrix back then. You just fill in the dots. You just look at the idiot smart person in the front row because they want to sit in the front row and just copy whatever they wrote down. So
the idiot.
You went to class. No, the smart. Okay, idiot. The person that sat in the front row was smart, and I just said whatever he writes down, I'm copying that dot in and turn it in. And I took biology for non-biology majors. I went to class 4 times, took 4 tests, and got an A in the class.
All right. So now we know how Risley got a degree from Indiana University. So I apologize for all the shit I've talked about Indiana University over the last 2 years.
There you go.
All right. Let's go ahead and move this on. And Keon Brooks announced that he's going to Kentucky. And this one probably hurts Archie Miller pretty good because they've been heavy after the kid the last 2 years. Cole, what's your take on this?
Yeah, no, it's like you said, they were in the lead from, reportedly for a couple years. Obviously, there were rumors he was close to committing, a few months back. That obviously didn't happen. Calipari swoops in the last minute and obviously convinced him on the whole one-and-done route. So Keon, obviously goes to Kentucky. Indiana's still in the running for a few recruits. I think they'll probably be a big player in the JUCO market or the, fifth-year transfer guys. I look for this team to add at least one more piece, whether it's through transfer or recruit still.
All right. What do you know about Harlan Beverly, the shooting guard out of Montverde, Florida? Because I know IU's supposed to play for him.
Yeah, I know he visited for I can't think which game it was. Maybe it was at Michigan State when they beat him at home. I believe it was that game. He's supposed to be a Michigan State lean, so, who knows if that game – obviously that would be a great environment to go down to. That was a big win for IU. He's a top 100 recruit. Obviously they could use some help at shooting guard. I think we all assume Romeo's going to be gone. It's a guy they've gotten down to visit, so, it's tough to say how that swayed his mind. He's from Michigan – or from Florida, but he's been a Michigan State lean for a while now. Hopefully IU can make up some ground there, but it's tough to say.
All right. Collin, does this hurt IU, or is this something we talked about the other night? He just needs to get the right guys. They don't necessarily have to be 5-star.
They don't have to be 5 stars. They really don't. And everybody, this is a side note, but with all the fans and stuff that tweet and everything at Keon and his family and say the absurd things that they say, you have to realize this kid's 18. Yeah. He's doing what he thinks is best for him and his family long term. He doesn't care about the fan base. It is like he doesn't care what people say or what they where they want him to go. Yes, you can be upset, but to tweet the things and say the things that people are saying to this kid, because that's what he is. He's a kid. He's not a grown man. He doesn't pay bills. He doesn't do any of that. To tweet the things that you're saying to these kids is absurd and it's bad. It hurts the program, genuinely. But I think long-term for the program, I don't think that it's hunting 5 stars. We're not going to turn into Kentucky. That's not Indiana University. It's not the program. It's not any of that. It's not sustainable long-term, in my opinion.
All right.
And like we said.
So real quick, Collin, I'm going to kind of piggyback off that. Do you think that had an effect on this kid's decision?
Oh, yeah. I do.
All right.
I do.
Steve?
I fully believe that it does.
Yeah. Steve, what's your take on it?
I think Collin's spot on. First off, I was very disappointed in the fan base of IU that you started ripping him when he chose Kentucky. It's his choice to do what he wants to do. I mean, he's not guaranteed to play anywhere and doesn't have to be guaranteed. And good for him. I mean, he picked the choices that he and his family thought was best fit for him. the bigger question I got for you guys is, can we, if we're comfortable doing it, just kind of give a 2-year grade on Archie Miller as a coach? Because I think right now when Indiana now has 2 years now not played in the dance, and you got kids like Romeo, and now him, and you're looking at like, God, I'm not planning on being here 4 years. I want to play the tournament, and you may have Romeo now. He may never play in the NCAA tournament. He may leave after this year. So, is that a factor, Collin, that factored into this more than anything?
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a certain aspect of going to a university to make it your own. I think that Duke and Kentucky's of the world have done a good job of getting top talent to go to the same school. But I think that there's a big aspect of kids wanting to do what they want to do and create their own path. And that's why you see some of these big time recruits go to these kind of one-off schools. But I think it does hurt IU that we don't make the dance recruiting wise.
Of course it does.
Because they obviously want to play in the tournament. But I don't know. The whole recruiting aspect of it with Trace and Armand, going to supporting him, I'm kind of honestly surprised that he didn't want to come play with these guys, because if you could play at the highest level with your best friends, quite candidly, why wouldn't you want to? It was just surprising to me on that front. It truly was.
Oh, okay, but okay, well, let's just throw that out there, Collin, now, because you grew up in Hamilton Southeastern, but you left to go to Cathedral. You didn't want to play with your best friends.
My parents.
You grew up with Ross and Grant and
you're not listening.
And Zach.
Don't interrupt. Jeez, my parents made me go.
Okay, well, see, but that's a family decision, and that's a fair decision. But that's the way the process works in 2019 versus how it worked in 1981. Yeah, we all grew up, and Woody and I and Don Cox and Tommy Baker were all great friends. We played different schools, but we all wanted to go play together. So we all went to IU. Today, AAU changes that whole mentality around where you go where you get the best opportunity.
Right.
Right. And so it's a different mindset and mentality now than it was back then. So I don't blame him at all for going there. And I'm very disappointed in IU and getting on him about it. And I agree with what you said earlier, Collin, in the fact that in Indiana, Archie needs to find guys that fit his system more than he needs to find superstars.
Well, how about this? How about this, though, real quick, Collin? And we talked about this with Ken a little bit. You got guys like John Beilein. He doesn't go out of his way to recruit those guys, but he always wins. He's been in 2 national championship games. He had West Virginia, I think, close to the Final Four. So is it maybe a self-defeating if you're only occasionally going after a guy that's a 1-year player, because doesn't that really in the end set your program back?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Michigan's program and why they're so successful is because Beilein is a 100% system guy. He's a system coach, and he does it very, very well, obviously, with their success. So he finds guys that fit in that system, that can run that motion, that continuous offense, and just have the skill set that they need for that position and be versatile, and just goes and gets athletes and develops them and stuff like that. And they fit in the system. And that's why they've been so good lately, because they have a couple really, really good players, and the rest are just solid, and they're versatile. When you get guys that don't necessarily fit in your system, and I think that Coach Miller's system that he had set in place at Dayton was so effective for him because he got the right guys in it. He had a bunch of guys, in my opinion, that were very, very athletic and very, bought into the system defensively, and that's why his defense at Dayton was so, highly regarded. I think that he's still trying to transition into mixing in the top talent with those guys that are going to fit that system and getting it all meshed together.
Yeah, and when you look at that too, Collin, and I brought this up a while back, Archie's first 3 years at Dayton, and I'll go with Cole on this, were pretty much like this. They were right around a 500 team until he got 3 or 4 years of his recruits to fit his system. Do you think that he is trying to get guys to fit his system right now, or do you think he's just trying to get the best player available?
I think that I think that's part of him trying to get the best player available. But go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to get – I think what he's trying to do for the most part is get the best players from the state of Indiana right now. I think that's, for the most part what he's doing. It's why he's targeting Romeo, last year. It's why he targeted Trace, Armand, and Keon this year. He's trying to lock down the state of Indiana and hopefully, and for the most part, I mean, Trace is a very good player. Keon's a very good player. I think those guys are good enough that they can fit in most systems. Obviously the issue is going to be, are those guys one and done players that, if you don't have a lot of success in that 1 year, do they set the program back? Obviously I do think, Archie's pursuing guys he thinks can fit in his system. I don't think these are guys that he just doesn't think would work, for what he wants to do.
So you don't think it is the fact that you have fans that are going, apeshit crazy, is lack of a better word, because they want these guys? You think maybe he feels some pressure by the fans?
That's a factor for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think it is a fact. I mean, because how many times have you heard over the past few years about all the top, talent in Indiana leaving? I mean, I think that's been something people probably made a bigger deal of it than what it is because, for the most part, I just tend to believe just get the players you want, whether they come from Indiana, whether they come from Ohio. I don't see why it matters. But, yeah, I mean, obviously that's been a factor, and I think it's part of why Archie's focusing on that so much. But, in his defense, and to be fair, there is a lot of talent in Indiana. Talent that I think can not only fit his system but help out Indiana. And there's obviously been a lot of talent that left that, have gone on to have really successful careers in other schools.
Well, and Steve, when we look at Bob Knight, he didn't get everybody from Indiana he wanted.
Oh, I think he got everybody he wanted. He
didn't get Kyle Macy. But he wanted Kyle Macy.
Did he not? Okay, yeah, I don't know that he wanted, but I think, you made a great point, Mike, talking about the system, and Collin said it too. About Archie Miller having a system, and Knight found players that fit his system. He didn't find players that made the fans happy. So my question is Archie Miller right now coaching or being directed to coach in a way or recruit in a way that brings a fan base in or gets more recruiting money in or more dollars in, donations or what? Because that's a great point, Mike. Knight didn't do that. I didn't know. I don't know that he recruited Kyle Macy. I don't know that.
Yeah, he did because I remember reading.
He did. Okay.
One of the guys that got away from him. He didn't recruit Scott Skiles. He did recruit Macy. Macy was from Peru, Indiana, and Macy would have actually played with you. I think your freshman and sophomore years if he'd have made the team.
Yeah. He was 75. I think he was 75, and I was 77. So yeah. I'd had him 2 years, which would have been great. But should you be recruiting? Because where did Gordon Hayward play high school ball? Connorsville?
No, he played in Indianapolis, I think, didn't he? Collin, do you know that one, or Cole?
I can't remember what
he went to. I think it was Brownsburg, right?
Yeah,
Brownsburg. Yeah, Brownsburg. Yeah, and he was not did he even make the All-Star team?
Yeah,
can anybody Google that real quick?
I'm pretty sure he made the All-Star team. He was pretty damn good.
Did he?
He hit like a shot at the buzzer to win the state championship, I think. So
did he?
Everybody knew about him. I mean, I don't know why he went to Butler. I don't know why. Who was coaching Indiana in 2008? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I don't have any idea either. You have to look that up too. We started running through them.
Yeah.
But I think that I agree with Collin. I think that once Coach Miller, and that's why I'm not going to dump on Coach Miller at all, because I think he just needs to get his system into place. And Mike, you made a great point about the first 2 or 3 years at Dayton, about him struggling there too. I think he's going to be a great coach at IU. He's just got to get the right players. He's trying to recruit Indiana players. He's trying to recruit role players that fit a system. And I think Coach Miller has a great system. He just doesn't have the right players in the right places right now. And we've just got to be patient. And, Keon Brooks, big deal. The guy wants to go be there for 1 year. If we lose Romeo, what do we really gain or lose? We got people to buy season tickets is what happened.
Real quick, Gordon Hayward never even got interest from Indiana. Gordon Hayward was the Indianapolis Star Player of the Year. He played on the 2008. He played in the Indiana-Kentucky Boys High School All-Star Game. He was a first-team All-Stater, Indiana Basketball Coaches Association. He was an unranked three-star prospect who signed with Butler, of course. He was heavily pursued. He got late interest at heavy pursuit from Purdue and Michigan, but Indiana never, really did anything. Actually, from looking at this, he was a better tennis player. He won back-to-back state singles championships.
Who was the basketball coach at IU the year he got his senior year? Do we know?
Would that would have been Sampson's last year? Maybe
that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Colin, do you remember?
Yeah, I would guess Sampson.
Yeah, because I think Cream came in 08, 09. Because he was there for 9 years when I left.
Yeah, Tom Crean was the head coach in 08 and 09.
How that shakes out.
Yeah, so this is all Tom Crean's fault, like everything else, Steve.
No, it's not Tom Crean's fault.
Actually, it would be Tom Crean's fault, by the way. Indiana. It would be Tom Crean's fault that he didn't get Gordon Hayward.
Tom Crean was a good coach for Indiana.
All right, here could be the problem. I found the problem. In 2007, 2008, when you should be recruiting Gordon Hayward, Kelvin Sampson was the coach at the start of the year, and then Dan Dockich was the interim head coach. So it's Dan Dockich.
I wasn't going to go there because I don't want to get blasted by Dockich online tomorrow. Why? So I wasn't going to go there.
Why? He's an idiot.
I'll get blasted.
Bust you. Hey, they were 25-8 that year. How did Dockich not get to keep the job?
I'm not going there. I'm not going to deal with Dockich. I'm just not going to deal with him.
Well, maybe because Dockich got beat in the first round of the Big Ten tournament and got blown out in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
I'm not going there.
I find Dan annoying. I don't really care. I'll get in a Twitter war with him. It doesn't matter to me because that's all stupid.
That's fine.
Anyways.
You do, but I've been in Twitter wars with him, and he has more followers than I do. So
well, that's how you get more followers,
so
Steve.
I'm not going there.
Steve,
all right.
Colin, explain to him how to get more followers on Twitter. If you get in a Twitter war with Dan Dockich,
start up a YouTube channel with your girlfriend, Allie, and start doing lifestyle stuff. That's how you get more Twitter followers.
Okay. And we're going to expand beyond that, too, with Colin and Allie. But everybody will have to wait and see where that goes. All right.
Well, but I think you need to take a look right now. Is it fair to say, guys, you take a look at and I'm not saying Archie Miller is Brad Stevens, because Brad Stevens obviously is a genius at doing what he does. But Stevens did that at Butler and took Butler by taking role players, guys like Gordon Hayward, that were kind of rejected by other bigger programs, and built these great franchises or teams, high-performing teams.
He got some pretty big recruits that Indiana wanted. Was the Howard kid from Connorsville? You remember him, Colin Cole?
Yep.
Big white kid with the fro. That boy could play. They got some players when Brad Stevens was there. And they got maybe better players than IU did from Indiana because they got the kids that could shoot the ball. So
should Archie be selling the system, or is he selling the system? And maybe Keon Brooks looks at it and says, I'm not a system player. I want to be a star. I'm only here 1 year.
Well, for the most part, if we're going to talk about, for the most part, if we're going to talk about one and dones being a problem, if you listen to what Keon said about why he went to Kentucky, it was pretty much I wanted to be a one and done. So if that's
so we don't want him anyway.
Yeah, so if that's Keon's mindset,
touche.
Kentucky's a good place to go for that. So.
Yeah, Archie, I'll just come out and say we didn't want him anyways. We're done with one and done. All right, so Cole, you'll get to go to the game for free, but so can all IU students, because it sounds like that free student tickets for Tuesday's NIT opener are available.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a decent crowd.
Yeah.
Not expecting it, but, you know.
You never know.
Okay, so what's the expectations on the crowds, guys? What do you think? You think it's going to sell out and fill up?
No.
Not for St. Francis, no. Oh, I mean, St. Francis will probably be a not great crowd. Hopefully they can get a decent crowd, you know, in that second-round matchup against either Providence or Arkansas.
Yeah, I would think 3,000 or 4,000, maybe 5,000. I don't know. Maybe people that don't normally go because they can't afford it will go, Colin.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have things when we have all the people who can't afford to go to Hoosiers area, and that's an awesome experience for them. And then we used to do things like the Halloween costume scrimmages and stuff like that to give people who, you know, really couldn't have a chance to afford those tickets. They got to come during those things too, and it's fun. So I think on that basis, it's a good point, Mike. I think that people will come, just because I'm gonna be honest. I think that the way that this team finished, other than Ohio State game, I think that the fan base still likes these guys. They still want to see Juwan play. They still want to see Romeo play. So I think more people will still come. I'm being honest.
Yeah. So
okay. So Colin, here's a question. If I went tonight, right now, after I get off this radio show, which I'm enjoying, and I went to Delta and bought the DL 117 Red Eye from Los Angeles to Indianapolis, got in, came in Tuesday. You think I'd be able to sit behind the bench, or would I still be by the band?
You could sit next to Archie, maybe.
You'd be the band, Steve.
I'd be
They're
where?
putting Steve in the upper level.
You'd be by the band.
I might not be allowed in the building.
He'll have his hands up around the window, looking out, looking in, and trying to see what's going on there. All right, guys. Is there going to be an IU St. Francis post-game show?
Can we finish the first question I asked, and everybody wants to address it?
Well, your first question should have been asked like an hour ago, but go ahead.
Well, I did ask it an hour ago, but we got off tangent as usual.
Oh, okay.
And it's mostly my fault. I apologize. Two-year rating on Archie Miller. Anybody want to touch it, or do you want to leave it alone?
I want to see how he finishes out this tournament before we touch that.
Yeah, I want to see how hard this team plays in this tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they play hard, they're playing to win, and they're trying to get better for next year. We'll give it a chance and see what happens. I think he'll be fine. Yeah. I think this was a bigger mess than what people think it was when he was coming in. At least that's what I think. But I've thought wrong before. All right, are we doing a Tuesday night show after IU St. Francis?
Depends on how they play.
All right. I won't be able to do it because, unlike Indiana, I will be at the NCAA tournament. So, let's see.
Jesus.
I have qualified. Let's see. Hey, at least one of us gets to go to the NCAA tournament. I'd rather it have been Archie Miller and his team, but maybe next year. They'll be there next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
They better be, because then if we're grading them, I'm grading on a lot harder curve. But, all right, Colin, any final words?
No, I might go to that NIT game.
You're not a student anymore, so they may make you pay for your ticket. You call them, they'll let you in.
I'll knock.
Yeah, just knock. They'll let you in. It's like it's a secret knock. If you knock 3 times, pause, and then knock twice, you get into the NIT game for free.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Steve Risley, any final words?
Yeah, I think, we made light of this, but I think this is a great opportunity for Indiana. I think Archie Miller's on the right path. I think looking at the body of teams that are in this NIT tournament, there are some weak teams, but there are some very good teams too. and a lot of that was due to upsets in conference championships, so it dropped some solid teams. This is not going to be a cakewalk for anybody to win. I mean, and I don't know that Indiana can win this tournament. But I think we should all, watch it, enjoy it, and let's see if we can put another banner on the wall. And that's what you want to do.
All right, Cole Hanna. You get to now go to a free NIT game as a credentialed media person.
Yeah, I'll be there Tuesday night rooting for him. I echo what Steve said. Though that may not be the most glamorous first-round matchup for IU, there are some good teams in this tournament, and especially that second-round matchup, they could get some, an interesting game, entertaining game. So, I think like Steve said, it's a good opportunity, and you'd like to see the team finish strong.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up, I guess. This is Tuesday. When would the second-round game be, Cole? Did they announce that yet?
It's the March, so the bracket I have says March 21st through the 25th. I don't know if they've announced which games would be on which date specifically.
So somewhere between
the bracket
Thursday
I have doesn't say.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We are going to go.
But it will be at Assembly. It will be at Assembly Hall, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll be in Assembly Hall until the Final Four if they keep winning.
All right. Good for them.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you, Survive in Advance tomorrow at noon. Brian Ralph will be on, and we can go ahead and break down who we think were snubbed in the tournament, who should have been in, who shouldn't have, seeds that were messed up, which I think there's a few glaring errors. So Brian Ralph will be with us tomorrow on Survive in Advance at noon Eastern, so make sure you check us out there. We're going to wrap it up for tonight, though, so I want to remind you that we are on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So for Cole Hanna, Steve Risley, Collin Hartman, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.